Hi everyone, I'm Josh. Welcome today to my updated 2024 TBR. Basically, this is the tail end of all the videos I've been making about reassessing my TBR and deciding what it is I want to keep, what physical books I want to keep, what I want to get rid of. I've done the unhaul, I've done the do I want to unhaul this video, and now it's time for these are the books that are staying. I won't be discussing each book because I have likely a lot. If I count them, this is the number. Don't know if I will or not, but I've stacked them into genres. And so without further ado, let us get into these books and we'll just go as quickly as we can through all of these. Are you ready? Okay. The Outsiders by S.A. Hinton, YA general fiction. It's sort of classic. Another YA classic, Rainbow Boys by Alex Sanchez. Another YA not classic by Jason Reynolds, Long Way Down. Another YA, Push by Sapphire, previously known as Precious. We have another, young people, and since middle grade, Me and Marvin Gardens by basically A.S. King. This is just general fiction. Aidan Robinson, Monkey Beach. And because I'm not organized, another A.S. King, The Dust of 100 Dogs. I'm pretty sure that's YA. Another YA by A.S. King. We have Still Life with a Tornado, A.S. King. Then we have several books, well, a couple books by Roxane Gay, An Untamed State, and Ayeti, both by her. I think they're both general fiction, nothing to do with her fiction heritage. Too much information. Here Comes the Sun by Nicole Denise Ben. Then we have Elizabeth Acevedo with The Fire on High. The YA, I think that one's poetry. Transcendent Kingdom by Yagasi. General fiction. Okay, now moving on to historical fiction and classics. Oh, what is this? William Gibson's Necronomicon. Ray Bradbury's The Illustrated Man, which I also have on my Library of America collection, which I'm not including in this video. Ralph Ellison's Invisible Man. Charlotte Webb's E.B. White. With Daphne du Maurier, The Birds on the Stories, as well as The Doll. And then one book by Toni Morrison, Song of Solomon. The trilogy by Chinua Achebe, the African trilogy, which I've only read the first of. My Jane Austen collection that I featured in the other video, with Sense and Sensibility, Pride and Prejudice, Emma, and Northanger Abbey. I don't think that's right, but The Divine Comedy by Dante. H.P. Lovecraft's entire collection. You can see a theme here. And then we have Grimm fairy tales. All books I would like to eventually read. I definitely had more of these, but I got rid of them throughout the years. Now moving on to historical fiction and I guess mythological fiction. From that video, we have Fire from Heaven by Mary Renault, the first of the Alexander the Great series. Cormac McCarthy in No Country for Old Men. Another Cormac McCarthy, the Border trilogy. The Yellow Wife by Sadika Johnson. Ali Smith's Girl Meets Boy, which is a pretty short Greek retelling. Historical fiction by Marlon James. The Book of Night Women, Gilead or Gilead, I'm not quite sure, by Marilyn Robinson. Historical fiction. Stephen Fry's Mythos, perhaps the only actual mythological fiction I still have on my shelf. Okay, now let's move on to speculative fiction, starting with fantasy. But first, in my fantasy, we're going to do series and author collections. Let's start with Douglas Adams. We have his series on Hitchhiker's Guide. My mumbling. I've read the first one. I still want to read all of them. Then we have two, or maybe the duology of his Dirk Gently series, which was made into a TV show, which is great, but sadly made by a predator. Then we have Octavia Butler's Dawn, the first of a series that I have yet to read. We have Area X by Jeff Vandermeer. Still have to read the third one in this collection. Ray Barrow, which is featured in my other video by Jordan Fico. Then we have a couple here that I'm fairly certain are series. Novellas by the Empress of Salt, well, by Ningbo, the Empress of Salt and Fortune. Then we have Zen Chao's The Order of the Pure Moon Reflected in the Water. Both that I've heard good things about, and you know, a good novella series is always fun to get into. I know I'm not supposed to talk about them, it's hard not to. We have book 2 in the, what is this called? The Dream Blood series by N.K. Jemisin, and I remember nothing of the first one, so I really have to read the first one. With that in mind, we have The Stolen Sky by N.K. Jemisin. I swear to God, I'm going to read that series next year. I keep saying I will. Or finish the series, rather. Lord of the Rings, which I read the first, maybe the second one, I'm not sure. I love this collection, though. 2 books by Joe Walton, which are in 2 of a trilogy. The Just City and The Philosopher Kings. I'm really not quite sure what this is. I think it has... She tends to have books have to... Well, why the fuck? I'm not doing that kind of discussion here. I'm not sure what it is. I just know it's historical fiction and bookish stuff. In fact, now I think it might even be fantasy. Black Sun by Rebecca Roanhorse. Axum's Inn by Lindsay Ellis. And Isaac Asimov's Foundation series, or the first trilogy at least, which I read the first one. And I loved. Why am I not continuing it? Now on to just general fantasy. P. Jelly Clark's Master of Jin, which is on another video, as well as The Haunting of Trams 015, Camp Card 15. We have the several series, trilogies, not trilogies, anthologies here. The Mythic Dream, Wonderland, which is Alice in Wonderland, where Watson varies, all themed fantasy and speculative fiction by the same editors, Mary O'Regan and Paul Kane, who so far I think I've read one collection by. I felt mid about this. But the concepts are there for me. More A.S. King. We have Switch. We have The Mirror Wife by Maria Davana Headley. Beowulf. Silver in the Wood by Emily Tesh. Some of these I'm assuming are the genre I'm saying they are. Map of Salt and Stars by Zen Jakarta. Sarah Gailey's Magic for Liars. The Dream Quest of Villette Bow by Kidge Johnson. The Icarus Girl by Helen Oyemi. Into the Forest by Jean Hegeland. Again, some of these I'm not sure if they actually are fantasy. More by Marlon James. Black Leopard Red Wolf from my other book or video. Again, B.E. Schwab. The Visible Life of Addie LaRue, that is. God's Dream and Shadow by Sylvia Marina Garcia. The Salt Roads by Nalo Hopkinson, which I'm really not sure if that's sci-fi or not, and I should have included other books, but for now let's talk about The Water Dancer by Ta-Nehisi Coates. Ta-Nehisi Coates. Now to science fiction. This video was way faster than I thought it would be. Maybe I could have integrated a bit more discussion to this video. So, first off, I'll say this was an unhaul, Clara in the Sun, and I decided to rehaul it, or to keep it in, because I thought my stepmother bought it for me. Now, I'm not sure. I think it was a different book she bought for me, which I also kept that one I already read. But for now, I was going to keep it. I'm not sure if it's going to stay here, but for full transparency, it's back on my shelf. More Nalo Hopkinson. Actually, 3 books here. Skinfoot, which is a collection. Sister Mine, novel. Midnight Robber, novel. And I've had good and mid experiences with Nalo Hopkinson. Always very thoughtful writer, though. Okay, I mentioned before author collections. These are the author collections, I realize now, not series. Let's start with Mary Robinette Kowal, who does the Lady Astronaut series, Word Puppets, a collection. Ghost Talkers, a fiction book. Forest of Memory, a novella. Now, on to the 2 that I have by Sean McGuire. Silver Hill Road and Boneyard. I'm pretty sure this one might be a series, but I guess here. No, I guess. Stephen King, Elevation, Poetry and Horror. Hazards of Time Travel, which I'm pretty sure I haven't read, by Joyce Carol Oates. Leftovers by Tom Perotta, which is just like the show. Hinch by Natalie Zinn Walschautz, because the concept still calls to me. I can't help myself. I love superheroes more than I should. But The Wanderers by Meg Hari, again from my other video. Octavia's Brood, a collection of the Octavia Butler inspired stories, which I'm like 80% certain I haven't read yet. It's a beautiful copy. Oh, wow. More Stephen Fry, Making History, Time Travel. Gay character too. More Jeff Vandermeer, Born. A very thought-provoking author who intimidates me. A lot of these science fiction speculative authors are like that. When they hit, they hit. It's just a high threshold sometimes. Space Opera by Catherine M. Valente, who I think is known for other things. This is, I hear, like Douglas Adams. And then Slay, a YA book that I'm a little unsure about, but intrigued enough about it when it comes to, yes, the tech future, cyberpunk. Brittany Morris is the author. So now let's stop for a second before we get, nope, there was more speculative fiction in the case of horror. So we'll do that before we stop for a break. Okay, and first up we have a Joe Alton that is misstacked in Tooth and Claw. Little tiny case, I have no idea what that is. House in the Dark of the Woods by Lord Hunt. They Are There by Tommy Joe Orange. The Hollow Places by T. Kingfisher. I'll keep that for later. We have a couple here. It should be stacked better. We have Night of the Mannequins by Stephen Graham Jones, as well as one of his earlier thriller books, I think, or maybe crime, The Fast Red Road. A little hesitant about this one, but I don't think it's strictly horror. But I'm trying to read its entire back collection, which is why I have this. And I've read a lot of his, actually. Crow of Winter by Karen McBride. These here. Actually, I think this is everything. Oh no, there's more Stephen Graham Jones. Damn. But we have Ellen Oyemi. Fuck, that's not right. Ellen Datlow. And she does editor of horror collections. We have Doll Collection, which I am mid about, but I have it. It was on Thrift Books or something. Lovecraft Monsters, which is one of 2 Lovecraft collections she has. Body Horrors, Body Shocks, which is probably one of the most appealing to me, but it's also one of the newest. I also have to review it on NetGalley, so I'm actually really bad about that. I have another one by her. Now I think about it, but Poe inspired, which I read her Shirley Jackson inspired one, and I loved that collection. Strongly recommend that. So I have high hopes for Poe, actually. Not that I've actually read Poe much, so I assume I'll like it. Mad Hatters and March Hares. Alice in Wonderland inspired, which I really should read Alice in Wonderland first. More by Stephen Graham Jones's backlist, All the Beautiful Sinners, another crime or thriller from his early time as an author. We have Stephen King's Skeleton Crew, a collection. I have not read a lot of Stephen King, but these were the 2 I think that were most appealing to me, or 2 of the most appealing that I hadn't read that was on my physical TBR. I got rid of a lot of his other ones that are, because I owned a lot a while back, not recently, but like when I moved from Canada, I got rid of a lot of his that I had on my shelf. But I felt like I shouldn't own it just because it was easy to get to. White Tears by Hari Kunsra. Should have learned that since the last video. We have Victor LaValle's A Big Machine, which all I can think of is that Stephen King movie about those machines that kill you. Dark Places by Gillian Flynn, rather. Oh shoot, more Ellen Datlow, Haunted Legends. I think it's just general horror themed. Is this in your way? It might be. Joe Hill, Horns. A little unsure about this one because Joe Hill to me is like Stephen King, very pop fiction horror. Can be fun, and I've just heard too many good things about this. It seems like fun. I also kind of watched the movie because I think I've grown to really like, what's his name? Daniel Radcliffe. Okay, now we're here. This is easily a higher stack than my one behind me. A lot of speculative fiction, a lot of general fiction, I guess that makes sense. A lot of anthologies in my horror collection now that I think about it. Anthologies and collections still. I think horror you can see mostly authors that I know, not really playing it safe, but I'm playing it safe. Speculative fiction, I feel like I'm definitely venturing out into new authors more often. Speculative, not horror. Okay, now on to nonfiction. We'll start with general nonfiction, with books about books and philosophy. We'll start with Bertrand Russell, the collection that I have. We have Why I'm Not a Christian, we have Religion and Science, and we have The Problems of Philosophy. Self-explanatory. The Guinness of Birds by Jennifer Ackerman, which, when I like science, I feel like this is probably more general fiction than science, which is why I put it here. And then on to books about books. We have 84 Crossing Road. We have How to Read Books Like a Novels Like a Professor, which is tangential to another book that I read by the author in like AP English or AP Literature in high school, which so it's like an imprint in my mind. She's Not a Murder, She Wrote by Lisa Kroger and Melanie Anderson. This other one was Thomas C. Foster and Helen Kneff. I realize I'm not reading the author's names all the time. Forgive me. I know not what I do. How to Read a Book by Mortimer J. Adler and Charles Van Dorn. Clearly, I don't know how to read. Okay, now on to history and politics, with a lot of biography. We have the People's History of the United States by Howard Zinn. We have Why I'm No Longer Talking to White People About Race by Renee Eddy Lodge. The New Jim Crow by Michelle Alexander. Asada by Asada Shakur. Just a biography by her. Pretty sure. I won't get into it. That's later. Harriet Tubman, The Life and Life Stories. This really needs to be on the Read It Run Hall. I think a scholarly biography of her. Why We Are Not Equal by Carol Anderson and others. What could it be? I have no idea. Hate Monger by Jean Giraldo, I believe is how you pronounce it. And I was hoping not to read this one. I was hoping to unhaul it, but it's still relevant. Yay. American Lion, Andrew Jackson, The White House by John Mitchum. Ruth Bader Ginsburg, a biography by Jane Sharon DeHart, which was a gift by my sisters and maybe my mom. President Carter in the White House Years by Stuart E. Eisenstadt, which was a gift by my father. Washington by Ron Chernow. Theodore Rex by Edmund Morris. Truman by David Clough. Abraham Lincoln, Volume 1 and 2, which eventually, this probably needs to be on my reader on the list, to be honest. Again, our academics would have styled a dense biography that I'm not sure is really made for me, but it's hard to give up on the idea once I get my mindset on something. Now on to the last stack, which is science, not fiction. This chair is uncomfortable, which, if you're curious, I'm sitting on a throne of books. Richard Dawkins, The Blind Watchmaker. Generally, I'm avoiding him, but there are some of his books that are, I think, pretty major in the field, which still appeals to me. He's an asshole and problematic in a lot of ways. Michael Pollan's On the Navarre's Dilemma, The Body of Desire, an author who I still want to try, but have been slow to pick up. I'm always worried when it comes to nutrition or any science book, whether or not it's real science or bullshit. And I just worry. He gets a little bit into the natural side, at least in the synopsis gives that vibe, which makes me hesitant. Again, TMI, but I guess I have plenty of time here. Hypatia of Alexandria, which I talked about in my other video. Maria Dizlowski. Pretty sure she might be Greek. I don't know, something European. Fatal Intention, Dorothy Roberts. How Science and Politics and Big Business Recreate Race. Basically, race as a construct, and talk about the science behind it, or rather probably the way in which science has been distorted. Behave by Robert Zablosky, about human behavior and decision. Brian Greene's Until the End of Time. Big fan of his. A very big influence on my love of science and cosmos, to be honest. Knocking at Heaven's Door by Lisa Randall, which is a skeptic science book. More Perfect Heaven by David Sobel, a book about Copernicus. Big fan of David Sobel. I am working my way through her entire backlog, actually. The 4% Universe by Richard Pink. Dark Matter. I've owned this for a while, I think, but I think there was a book I read recently that got me thinking, or rather reflecting on the fact that I know so little about dark matter. And just for a while not been interested just because I've been confused by it. And now that I think about it more, it's like, I want to know more about it and stop being confused. Okay. We have James Randi, a big backlog, which is really old, but this is the first one I bought. It's the one I'm going to try and read, or have been trying to read. Flim Flam, Psychics, ESP, Unicorns, and Delusions. He definitely debunks a lot of mainstream psychics from the 80s in this, but it was written in the 80s, so again, I'm getting into too much information. The Simpsons and Other Mathematical Secrets. Simon Singh, an author who I've enjoyed and not enjoyed. A titular book in, I think, evolution science, The Ascent of Man, which, like Cosmos, might have to do with a series that I don't know about. The Myth of Race by Robert Waldo Sussman, another book about race being a construct. Why Evolution is True by Jerry A. Cohen. Evolution. 2 books by Noah Harari, Homo Deus and A Brief History of Humankind or Sapiens. His 2 first books. I have seen a couple things. I'm a little bit nervous about the accuracy there, how it's portrayed, but I'm not ready to give up just yet on that. I haven't really done a deep dive either. Carl Sagan, a biography, well, that's been here. Really should just be on my read or on haul list. That's not true. I will never on haul list. I will eventually read it, or keep lying to myself until I do. Stephen Hawking's The Universe in a Nutshell and A Brief History of Time, which I've already read the Brief History of Time. Okay, a quick amendum. I realized I had some unread books in my read pile, so all those videos I made are missing a couple things. Let's start with the unhauls, actually. I'm gonna go with The Caroline by Neil Gaiman. Not a great copy, and also all that shit about Neil Gaiman. I need to get more books. The First Time She Drowned by Carrie Clitter, I think, is a YA thriller, or maybe just mental health book, I'm not sure. It does appeal to me, but you know, in the age of unhauling, I'm fine getting rid of it. If I really want to read it, it'll come back up in my mind in the future. That's the beauty of what I'm discovering now as an audiobook reader, is that if I really want to read something, it not being on my shelf shouldn't stop me, okay? If you're really worth reading, you will compel me without being on my shelf, you understand? And then 3 books I'm gonna keep on my TBR, because I unhauled several Hello Yumi. I'm gonna keep this one, sort of Snow White retelling. This premise sounded intriguing. They always do, to be honest, but this one, while retelling, I don't know, I like the dynamic of a stepmother finding out she's a bit of a wicked asshole. And that dynamic, it's weird, it's interesting, and hopefully it could be compelling. Like, I've liked her work before, so we will see. Haunted by Chuck Palahniuk, whatever. Yeah, I'm sure I'm my cup of tea. Ararat by Christopher Golden, survival horror, and I think supernatural horror too. Okay, and that's that. Here we are, as in olden days. Those are all the books I'll be keeping on my physical TBR for now. I guess now I can give you a haul next time I have new books, which, now that I'm not going to be moving across the country, or rather across the world, in the near future, or I don't expect to, I might be more inclined to buy books now. You know, a good motivation not to buy books is knowing that you might have to fly across the world in a couple of years. Flying with a book is like just as much as buying it again. So, but if you made it to the end, thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed this. This is probably the best of the 3 videos I made so far, at least production-wise, and hopefully it shows. Hope you have a great day, and I'll see you all next time. Happy holidays.